As a high school student, 18, I never thought I would find myself in such a chaotic and destructive situation. It all started during quarantine when my best friend, Jack, 17, asked me to come over to hang out. We had been friends since elementary school and were practically inseparable. However, little did I know that this innocent hangout would spiral into a fiery disaster. I arrived at Jack's house, excited to catch up and have a fun day together. We spent hours playing video games, watching movies, and just enjoying each other's company. But as the day turned into night, Jack received a text message that changed everything. It was from his girlfriend, Lisa, 17, accusing him of cheating on her. Jack was completely shocked and denied the allegations, but Lisa was relentless in her accusations. She threatened to break up with him if he didn't prove his loyalty to her. I could see the panic in Jack's eyes as he frantically tried to come up with a solution to salvage his relationship. Feeling helpless and desperate, Jack turned to me for help. He begged me to come up with a plan to prove to Lisa that he was faithful to her. In a moment of pure stupidity and impulsiveness, I suggested the most reckless idea possible, burning down his house. I don't know why that idea popped into my head, but in the heat of the moment, it seemed like the only way to prove Jack's dedication to Lisa. Without fully realizing the consequences of my actions, I convinced Jack to go along with the plan. We gathered some matches and lighter fluid from his garage and set his house ablaze. The flames quickly spread, engulfing the entire house in a fiery inferno. The sound of sirens wailed in the distance as Jack and I watched in horror at what we had done. The realization of the severity of our actions hit us like a ton of bricks. Jack's family would be devastated, his belongings lost, and his future uncertain. As the fire department arrived to extinguish the flames, Jack and I ran away in a panic. We didn't know where to go or what to do next. The guilt and shame weighed heavy on my conscience as I realized the magnitude of the destruction we had caused. In the days that followed, the fallout from our reckless decision became increasingly apparent. Jack's family was left homeless, their lives turned upside down in an instant. The community was shocked by the news of the arson, and rumors began to spread about who was responsible for such a heinous act. Jack and I were consumed by guilt and regret, unable to comprehend the extent of the damage we had inflicted. Our friendship was strained as we struggled to come to terms with our actions. The weight of our choices weighed heavily on us, threatening to crush us under the weight of our own guilt. Days turned into weeks, and the tension between Jack and I only grew. The fallout from the fire was relentless, with investigations, accusations, and recriminations swirling around us. The community demanded answers, and Jack and I found ourselves at the center of a storm of controversy. As the pressure mounted, our friendship began to crumble under the weight of our guilt and shame. Jack blamed me for coming up with the reckless plan, while I resented him for going along with it. The divide between us widened as we struggled to come to terms with the consequences of our actions. And so, as I sit here now, grappling with the aftermath of the fire, I can't help but wonder, am I the asshole? Have I irreparably damaged my friendship with Jack, his family, and our community? The weight of my guilt hangs heavy on my shoulders as I wait for the answer to that question. In the midst of chaos and destruction, I can only hope for some semblance of redemption and forgiveness. Update. As the investigation into the arson continued, evidence began to surface pointing towards Jack and me as the perpetrators. The police interviewed neighbors, reviewed security footage, and gathered witness statements that implicated us in the crime. The mounting pressure of being suspected of such a heinous act only added to the strain on our friendship. Jack and I were interrogated separately by the authorities, each of us trying to distance ourselves from the other in a desperate attempt to avoid implicating ourselves any further. The weight of the investigation loomed large over us, casting a dark shadow on what was once a close and trusting friendship. As the days turned into months, the tension between Jack and me reached its breaking point. The stress of the investigation, the guilt of our actions, and the betrayal of our friendship weighed heavy on both of us. The whispers and accusations in the community only added to the turmoil, leaving us isolated and alone in the wake of our recklessness. In a final act of desperation, Jack and I met one last time to try and salvage what was left of our friendship. But the damage was irreparable, the trust shattered beyond repair. In a fit of rage and despair, we turned on each other, blaming and accusing in a futile attempt to absolve ourselves of guilt. Conclusion. In the end, the fire that destroyed Jack's house also destroyed our friendship. The ashes of our recklessness and betrayal smoldered between us, leaving behind nothing but bitterness and resentment. The fallout from the arson was catastrophic, irreversibly altering the course of our lives and the lives of those around us. As I reflect on the events that led to that fateful decision to burn down my best friend's house, I can't help but feel the weight of my actions crushing my soul. The guilt and shame of what I've done will haunt me for the rest of my days, a constant reminder of the consequences of my reckless choices. And so, as Jack and I part ways, our friendship in ruins, the only thing that remains is the knowledge that we are both assholes. I for suggesting such a reckless act, and he for going along with it. The divide between us is unbridgeable, our hearts consumed by the flames of our own making. In the end, there are no winners in this story, only losers. The destruction wrought by our actions will reverberate for years to come, leaving behind a legacy of pain and regret. And as the embers of our friendship fade into the darkness, all that remains is the stark realization that sometimes the greatest betrayal is the one we inflict upon ourselves.